let's talk garlic. I wanted to make a really quick video on how I grow garlic because I feel like it's honestly the best beginner crop to grow. It couldn't be easier to grow. The internet will tell you that radish is the easiest crop to grow, but I beg to differ. I can't grow radish or any other root vegetables really to save my life, but garlic, your girl can grow a head of garlic. So in this video, I'm going to break down growing garlic, when to plant garlic, the two types of garlic, and what you should be planting for your zone, when to harvest garlic, and what to do between planting and harvesting. So if you're watching this video in the fall, it is the perfect time to start thinking about planting garlic. Garlic is a crop that you plant in the fall. In Atlanta, Georgia, I like to get my garlic in the ground before Halloween, and then you harvest. For me, it's about late May, early June. So it is a crop that takes a really long time to mature, but I hope that doesn't scare you because it's literally a crop that you do almost nothing to. So there are two different types of garlic. There's hardneck garlic. This is a garlic that you're gonna wanna grow if you live in a colder climate. This is the garlic that shoots out those amazing garlic scapes in the early spring that you cut off and can make fancy schmancy pesto with. This is also a garlic that doesn't store as well. So this isn't going to be sold in your grocery stores. This is something that you're either going to have to pre-order online, you're going to have to find at your local nursery, or you're going to have to find at a seed and supply store. If you're growing in a northern climate, hardneck garlic is going to be the garlic that gives you the best success. Now this stash right here, this is softneck garlic. And this is actually my garlic that I pulled up in June and have been storing and using in the kitchen ever since. Softneck garlic is what you're gonna find in your grocery stores because softneck garlic stores really well. And so things that store really well are things that you'll often find for sale in the grocery stores. Softneck garlic does not put out garlic scapes, so there's nothing to cut off in the spring. And it is the best garlic to plant if you live in a southern state. This garlic harvest is actually from grocery store garlic. I planted organic grocery store garlic in my garden 2 years ago and then harvested it and replanted some last year, and now I have this, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to be replanting it in my garden today. It really couldn't be simpler, and it is such an economical crop to grow. Plus, I don't know if you're like me, I love garlic in food, and so we use a lot of this in the kitchen. It stores for a long time. It's just a great, useful thing to grow. In Atlanta, I've had really great success growing softneck garlic, planting it before Halloween, harvesting it after 3 of the leaves have dried out and browned. But to be honest, this is my very first year ever growing hardneck garlic, and that is just because I really want to try this garlic scape pesto that everyone keeps talking about. So this year I'm going to be planting both hardneck and softneck garlic, but I want to take you over to my garden beds and show you how easy it is to get garlic in the ground, which hopefully that will motivate you to at least try to plant some garlic in your garden this year. I'm telling you, it couldn't be easier. Let's go get this in the ground. So before I plant garlic, I do want to share that garlic is considered a heavy feeder, which just means that it really, really wants good soil. So starting off your garlic in some nice, rich soil, especially if you've planted vegetables in your garden beds in the past, will really help the garlic get off to a good start. Between seasons, I like to add a nice thick layer of compost. Adding a good 2 to 3 inches normally seems to do the trick for my plants. And then later in the spring, we will add some fertilizer so that the garlic has enough nitrogen to do its thing. So here's how easy it is to get this garlic in the ground. The hardscape garlic I got this year from Botanical Interest, like I said, really just to try garlic scapes because I want to know what all the fuss is about. And then I'm curious to see if the cloves taste any different than regular garlic. Who knows, maybe I'll be hooked. But the trick to planting garlic is that you want to plant the individual cloves, not the entire head. You plant the cloves 2 to 3 inches apart, and you want to keep the inner paper coating on there. So this is going to help protect the clove. This is the top side. The pointy side goes up, and the flat bottom side, that's where the roots are going to come out. So you're just planting them just like this, about 2 to 3 inches away, and that's it until March.
To keep the rows even, I like to use a scrap piece of wood and just rock it back and forth into the soil. You're really looking for only about an inch of depth or so. They don't need to be planted super deep. And then my rows are also spaced about 2 to 3 inches apart, and I like to plant garlic in places that I know I'm not going to plant summer crops. Garlic takes forever to mature, and you're gonna be very impatiently waiting for it to mature if you plant it in a spot where you typically plant any of your spring or summer crops, your tomatoes, your peppers, all of that. You're gonna wanna get into the ground before the garlic will ripen. So plant it strategically, either down the center of a bed, or you can instead plant along the four corners, the very perimeter. Anywhere that you're not going to want to plant your summer crops are a great place to plant garlic now.
One last planting tip that I'll share is that the bigger clove that you plant, the bigger head that you harvest next year. So I only will plant the biggest cloves, and then the smaller cloves that are towards the inside of a garlic, I will just cook with those instead. That way I can make sure that all of my garlic that I harvest next year is nice and big and worth growing. Okay, so now that the garlic is on the ground, I literally don't have to do anything until the weather starts warming up. The winter, the garlic will grow as it grows. If it gets cold, if it snows, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be covered. It doesn't need to be protected. I will throw a layer of mulched up leaves on it, as I do the rest of my garden beds, to insulate it, but I don't do anything else. I don't worry about them. I don't think about the garlic until I see some forsythias blooming. So for me, the sign of spring is here and I need to get out into the garden. Things are starting to come back to life is when I see forsythias bloom. So that time of year is when I will cut back roses. I will fertilize things that need to be fertilized, and that includes fertilizing your garlic. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that garlic is a heavy feeder, and in order to get those big garlic bulbs that you're gonna wanna pull up later in the year, I just go ahead and I set an alarm on my phone, and then once a month I will add plant tone to the garden bed. I just sprinkle it on top. I don't do anything, I don't mix it in. I just sprinkle, and that's it. That's really all the work that there is in growing garlic between when you plant it and when you harvest it. So when you see your forsythias blooming, your garden coming back to life, that's when you would start fertilizing your garlics once a month, and then all you really have to do from there is wait to harvest. Remember, if you are growing hardneck garlic, you are going to get garlic scapes in the spring. You're gonna cut those off because you don't want those to bloom. You're gonna want to harvest all of those so that all of the energy is gonna be in the garlic bulb so that you're growing a bigger head of garlic later. For softneck garlic, I don't do a thing outside of fertilizing until it's time to harvest. Really, the hardest part I think about growing garlic is being patient enough to wait until the garlic is mature to harvest it. This means waiting until I see at least 3 dried brown leaves on the garlic. That's when I will pull the garlic up, and then I just put it into my garage. No fancy garlic curing or drying setup. I will lay them out, I will forget about them, and then one day I'll come back and they will be dry and I will go, woohoo, now I have garlic, and I'll bring it into my kitchen. So that's my method for growing garlic. As you can see, it is incredibly easy and incredibly hands-off. I hope that I can encourage you to at least grab some garlic from the store if you live in a warmer, milder climate, and get a couple of cloves on the ground so that you can experiment with growing your own garlic. I'm telling you, when I first started gardening, I thought garlic was going to be so hard to grow, and I was really intimidated by it. But then I just took some from the store, stuck it in the soil, and realized how easy it was. And now I want to get the message out because it really is an easy thing to grow, and it's super fun and satisfying to harvest next year. So if you watch this video all the way through, I want to say thank you. If you like gardening content, this is what I do on the channel. I'll post videos all about what I'm doing in my veggie garden beds or in my landscape. I love sharing that with you. If you have any questions or suggestions for a future video, don't be shy. Just go ahead and leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.